So you've done it. You've written the algorithm, you've crunched petabytes of data, and you've found that perfect signal in all the noise. You've uncovered a pattern that could literally change the game for your business. But now what? That question right there is the real challenge, and it's exactly what we're digging into today.
Welcome from Nexus. In this explainer, we're going to talk about how to take that brilliant, game-changing insight and turn it into real-world automated action.
Because let's be real for a second, finding that needle in the haystack, that's an amazing discovery. But what good is that needle if it just stays in a haystack? An insight that's just locked away in a report or a notebook, well, it has zero impact. This is the whole challenge of operationalizing big data.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about making that jump from insight to action. Then, we'll walk through the 3 main stages of making it all happen. We'll use a really powerful case study from healthcare to make it all concrete. After that, we're diving into the nitty-gritty of workflows and data quality, and finally, we'll set you up for what comes next, the bigger organizational impact.
You know, the best way to think about this whole thing is moving from a research lab to a factory floor. In the lab, you get to experiment, you can break things, test crazy ideas, failure is just part of the process. But on the factory floor, everything has to be reliable, repeatable, and super efficient. A failure there costs real money, it stops the whole production line. And that's exactly what operationalizing big data is. It's about hardening that experimental idea into a rock-solid, automated business process.
So, how do you actually get from a pile of raw data to a real-time automated decision? Well, it's not just one giant leap. It's more of a structured journey, and it happens in 3 key stages. Let's break those down. First, you explore. This is you, hunting through all that raw data, looking for those hidden gems, those patterns and correlations. Then you codify. You take that promising pattern and you make it official. You turn it into a set of rules, an algorithm or model. And finally, and this is the most important step, you integrate. You actually wire that model directly into your live business processes so it can start making smart, automated decisions all on its own.
Okay, so that's the theory. Now let's see how these stages actually play out in the real world, in a field where the stakes are incredibly high, transforming how we diagnose patients in healthcare.
Traditionally, a doctor makes a diagnosis based on a pretty limited set of data, right? You've got the patient's history, their symptoms, some standard lab results. It's a method that works, for sure, but it's kind of a closed loop. It only uses the information that's right there in front of you. Now watch what happens when we operationalize big data. The core process of diagnosing a patient doesn't go away. It gets supercharged. By plugging in all these new data streams, it's no longer a closed loop. It becomes this central hub that's connected to this huge ecosystem of information, which really paves the way for truly personalized and way more effective treatments. And what kind of new data are we even talking about? Well, we can pull in global clinical trial data to see what's worked for thousands of similar patients. We can integrate genetics data to check for specific mutations that change how a drug works. We can even add real-time data from medical devices for a constant stream of vitals. Every single new source adds another critical layer of context, turning a generic diagnosis into a super specific, personalized recommendation.
Now, plugging in all that data sounds amazing, but it also creates a massive challenge. When your model's decisions have real-world consequences, you absolutely cannot feed it bad data. This brings us to the, let's say, less glamorous but critically important foundation of all of this: workflows and data quality.
So let's get these 2 terms straight really quickly, using our healthcare example. A process is the big picture, the high-level goal. Diagnose a patient, simple enough. A workflow is a specific automated task within that process. For instance, query the genetics database for mutation Y, cross-reference it with clinical trials, and then return a risk score. See? The workflow is where the code actually meets the data.
To build a workflow you can trust, you have to nail 3 key concepts. First up is data validity. Put simply, is your data accurate? When you're just exploring, a little noise is okay. But when an automated decision hangs on it, the data you're feeding that model has to be correct. You just can't afford to make decisions based on bad information. Next, you need data veracity. This is all about making sure your data is a truthful picture of reality. For example, a weather satellite might report a storm. To check for veracity, you could cross-reference that with social media data. If thousands of people in that exact area are tweeting about heavy rain, you've pretty much confirmed your data is truthful.
And finally, you have to think about data volatility. Basically, the lifespan of your data. How long is this information even relevant? How long do you need to store it? Answering this is a huge engineering decision. Stock market data might be useless in a few seconds, but a patient's genetic data is relevant for their entire life. Figuring out volatility is absolutely key to building an efficient system. So, we've taken an insight, we've run it through our 3 stages, and we've built the quality control rulebook to make sure it's reliable. We've built the machine. Now it's time to talk about the impact this machine is going to have on the entire organization.
If you take just one thing away today, let it be this principle right here. This quote just perfectly captures the entire mindset shift you need. In the lab, you explore. In production, you validate. This is the fundamental rule that separates a cool data science project from a true, business-critical data product.
And that brings us perfectly to our next chapter. We're going to move beyond the technical how and really get into the business why. We're going to explore what it really takes to apply big data inside your organization to get real, tangible bottom-line results.
So, we'll leave you with the ultimate question. What's the ROI on a petabyte of data? The answer, it turns out, isn't in the data itself. It's in how well you can operationalize the insights you find within it. And we'll show you how to find that answer in our next explainer. Thanks for watching.